In our last video, you learned how to add colors to a basic black and white line art image. We used the gradient tool and solid colors. But there is so much more that you can do with gradients, such as adding three-dimensional effects. This is Photopea Lesson E, and I'm David Black. This is the fifth of 12 digital media microlessons that you'll use to learn Photopea, a free online photo image editing program. Let's go ahead and get started. I am using this sample page from a graphic novel about exploring the planets. In this panel, I am showing a Greek philosopher pointing at the constellations of Orion and Taurus. In the background, I've drawn a small circular temple with Doric columns. They would look better if they were more three-dimensional. To do this, we'll use the background layer to select the column we want to put a gradient into. Then click on the color layer and expand the selection by 2 pixels, as we did in our last lesson. Now this is to avoid getting any gray pixels around the edge of our colors. With the area selected, I choose the gradient tool and make sure it is set for a simple linear gradient. Then I pick the colors carefully to mimic how a marble column would look. The basic color is going to be gray with a hint of blue in it, but I will now create tabs in the gradient tool to make variations on this basic color. The leftmost tab is set to a medium light tint of that color. Then the next tab is set to a light version of the color, then back to medium, then to a dark shade of that color, and finally back to medium. I will now drag the gradient tool across the column, going exactly perpendicular to its length. Do you see how this looks like light is highlighted on the column with some ambient light reflecting around the edges? I'll now do the same for the other columns and for the top. To do a sphere, such as these small spheres representing Mars during retrograde motion, I'll choose a basic color of brownish orange, then create 4 tabs. The first one is a light tint of the basic color, then the basic color, then a darker shade of it, then back to the basic color again. This time, I'll set the gradient tool to radial rather than linear. Then select the area and expand the selection by 2 pixels. Going to the color layer to make the effect, I start to drag the gradient not at the edge, but at the point where I want the sphere to have a highlight, then across the sphere to the opposite, furthest side. See? Instant sphere effect. I'll go ahead and do the same for each of the other small Mars spheres. For shading the philosopher's robes, I can use a low opacity soft brush and paint in shading along the folds of the robes on the color layer, and then use the dodge and burn tools to make shading. I can create highlights and shading inside of the narrator's hair. And I can create many other types of special effects, but this is enough to get you started. If you'd like to learn more, there are many great tutorials available on YouTube and other web pages. You can also check out my longer videos that can be found here. As always, have fun doing this and keep on learning.